after the news circulated throughout the night. On November 21st, Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a speech, stating, "The Russian military carried out a joint strike on Ukrainian military-industrial enterprises. During the attack, the Russian military tested a new type of medium-range hypersonic missile without a nuclear warhead, codenamed Hazel." Putin claimed that the Hazel missile can strike targets at a speed of Mach 10. And currently, no anti-missile system can intercept this type of missile as early as June 28. Putin said in a national security video conference, Russia should start producing new medium-range missiles and then decide on the deployment issue to ensure that NATO countries and the Asian allies of the United States are within the missile's range. It seems that Russia has already taken action. The impact point of this missile is on the Dnieper River, 90 kilometers north of Zaporizhzhia. From a tactical perspective, this is not really necessary. There is a Russian-controlled area in Zaporizhzhia, and Dnipro is only a little more than 200 kilometers from Donetsk. The Russian military could have completely used tactical missiles with a much shorter range, a much lower cost, and more flexible use, including the abundant Geronto-kamikaze drones. But the Russian military chose a medium-range missile with a big bang and significant impact at first. The Ukrainian side claimed that the Russian military had launched an RS-26 intercontinental missile. Of course, it was finally proven to be a misinformation. In fact, it's not impossible. The range of the RS-26 is at least 5,800 kilometers, which has been measured in tests from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome to the K, or a missile test, range. But according to the Ukrainian account, the missile was launched from Astrakhan, which is only a little over 1,000 kilometers away. And a high trajectory flight would be required. However, the Ukrainian side was not completely wrong. According to reports, the Hazel is a new medium-range hypersonic missile developed by Russia after entering the 21st century and is indeed based on the RS-26. The RS-26 can carry multiple independently target-able reentry vehicles MIRV, maneuverable reentry vehicles MARV, and the Ava-Guard hypersonic glide warhead. According to the media video, the missile that fell in Dnipro had 6 bright trails, which is in line with the characteristics of a multiple warhead. A range of 6,000 kilometers just exceeds the generally recognized upper limit of 5,500 kilometers for medium-range missiles, making it suitable for modification into an advanced medium-range missile. Some even believe that Russia's original intention in developing such a missile with a barely intercontinental range was to develop a medium-range missile to replace the SS-20. It's just that when developing it, Russia had not yet withdrawn from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty and needed to cover it up a bit. Since the Hazel is a medium-range missile, its range may be shorter compared to the intercontinental RS-26. Compared with the range of the SS-20, it may also be in the 5,000 kilometer class. Thanks to the 12x12 mobile launch system, the deployment and use of the Hazel are very flexible. The West originally thought that this was a missile still in the testing phase. But Russia is testing this brand new missile through actual combat. And its target is clearly and unmistakably NATO, including the United States. In 1987, Reagan and Gorbachev signed the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty between the United States and the Soviet Union, which prohibited the United States and the Soviet Union from developing and deploying land-based missiles within the range of 500 to 5,500 kilometers, including cruise missiles. According to the treaty, the United States dismantled all Pershing intermediate-range missiles and land-based Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Soviet Union dismantled all SS-20 intermediate-range missiles, and neither country had intermediate-range missiles anymore. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty was a milestone in nuclear arms control between the United States and the Soviet Union, but it was abolished by Trump in 2019. The direct reason was that Russia's SC-8 land-based cruise missile had violated the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. And the real reason was actually that China refused to join the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, creating a unilateral advantage over the United States after withdrawing from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. The United States redeveloped intermediate range missiles. Opfires and the hypersonic LRHW are both intermediate range missiles. And the target is of course China. Until the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, the United States thought that Russia was a dead tiger and only needed to step on it one more time to ensure that it would never rise again. The range of intermediate range missiles is lower than that of intercontinental missiles and is mainly used for strikes within a theater. For example, the SS-20 could strike targets across the whole of Europe from within the Soviet Union. And the Pershing could strike most of the targets west of the Ural Mountains from Central Europe. Intermediate range missiles used to all carry nuclear warheads. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty between the United States and the Soviet Union comprehensively prohibited all intermediate range missiles, including intermediate range ballistic missiles and land-based cruise missiles, both nuclear warheads and conventional warheads, but made an exception for air-launched and ship-launched including submarine-launched cruise missiles. Obviously, the United States refuses to give up its advantageous fields. The Soviet Union once thought it could catch up and agreed to exclude air-launched and ship-launched cruise missiles by the United States. But the disintegration of the Soviet Union dashed this expectation. It was not until recent years that a large number of air-launched and ship-launched cruise missiles available for actual combat were deployed and used in the wars in Syria and Ukraine. Especially the well-known KALIB are also translated as Club Ship-Launched Cruise Missile and KH-55-101 Air-Launched Cruise Missile. Put in speech specifically referred to medium-range nuclear missiles, but it is also conceivable to expand it to medium-range conventional missiles. The Hazel missile used in the actual combat in DNIPRO carried a conventional warhead. In fact, medium-range conventional missiles were an invention of China for a long time. China lacked theater strike capabilities. Before the missile era, the H-6 was the only weapon platform with a certain theater strike capability, but it was too old and had little practical combat value. Therefore, China found a new way and made medium-range missiles dual-purpose for nuclear and conventional use. The DF-26 is a typical example, as well as the DF-21. The ranges of the DF-17 and even the DF-16 also greatly exceed the lower limit of medium-range missiles. Now cruise missiles should also be added at sea and in the air. China has also developed and equipped various new types of missiles and initially has complete theater strike capabilities. Importantly, China's theater strike missiles are in large quantities. They not only have nuclear strike capabilities, but can also cause effective damage and destruction when used for conventional strikes now. The distant Guam has become a target of China's theater strike forces, and Japan and the Philippines are even more within the firepower range, which has greatly disrupted the United States' strategic deployment in the Western Pacific. In contrast, after Russia dismantled the SS-20 as required by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, cruise missiles could not be connected for a long time, and its theater strike capabilities relied on Tu-22M and Tu-160 bombers. Multiple actual combat operations have shown that the practical combat effectiveness of these bombers is lower than expected, making Russia's theater strike capabilities a shortcoming. In the Ukraine war, Russia has threatened NATO countries with the Iskander short-range ballistic missiles deployed in Kaliningrad, but their range is always a bit limited. Moreover, Kaliningrad is not large, sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania, It is an exclave that is not contiguous to the Russian mainland, and its strategic position is rather vulnerable, making it easy to be wiped out all at once. The Kh-47M Tukinzy-Hal hypersonic missile, which is actually an air-launched variant of the Iskander launched by the MiG-31, is more flexible in tactical use. However, the number of MiG-31s is limited, and their mechanical conditions are generally poor. Besides, they need to break through enemy defenses and penetrate to a certain depth behind the front line before reaching an effective launch position. After Russia redeploys a large number of Hazel medium-range missiles, there will be more options for strikes. The SS-20 carried nuclear warheads due to its mobile launch capability, high accuracy, and short preparation time for launch. It posed a serious threat to NATO in the final years of the Cold War. The role of mobile launch and short preparation time for launch is quite obvious, but the role of high-precision nuclear weapons is less so. Nuclear weapons are powerful, but it doesn't mean that the more powerful they are, the better. When it comes to tactical nuclear strikes, the power of nuclear weapons needs to be just right, ensuring that the target is destroyed while minimizing collateral damage. This is the key to avoiding uncontrollable nuclear escalation. Everyone hopes that tactical nuclear weapons can be not only a deterrent, but also a viable option. The idea that once the nuclear threshold is crossed, mutual destruction will be automatically triggered is a misconception about nuclear war. Among nuclear powers, mutual destruction is used to ensure that neither side will be completely defeated, but it can't lead to victory. When there is still a glimmer of hope, no one will easily embark on the path of collective suicide. "We might as well perish together" is a naive and satisfying phrase, not the way adults think. Therefore, both hitting accuracy and adjustable yield are important. They are the keys to making tactical nuclear weapons usable. The SS-20 achieved high accuracy but hadn't achieved adjustable yield, yet it was already threatening enough. As a replacement for the SS-20, the Hazel is supposed to be equipped with nuclear warheads with adjustable yield. It can also carry conventional warheads, which has been verified in the actual combat in DNIPRO. The dual-purpose design for nuclear and conventional use has greatly enhanced the usability of the Hazel, and it is a new type of medium-range missile combined with a hypersonic glide warhead. The RS-26 RUBEZH boundary missile is a new type of missile developed based on the RS-24YARS missile. The picture shows the RS-24 intercontinental ballistic missile system at the Moscow Victory Day Parade in 2024. Visual China. Medium-range missiles have low trajectories and short flight times. They are flexible in choosing launch positions and targets and are not easy to intercept, unless the missile's trajectory happens to fly right over the interception position. The interceptor missile may not have completed its slant-range flight while the incoming missile has already flown out of the interception window. The flight speed of medium-range missiles far exceeds that of short-range ballistic missiles. After adopting hypersonic glide warheads, their trajectories become even lower and flatter and are highly maneuverable. The existing anti-missile mechanisms based on the reverse ballistic principle can hardly deal with them. Whether it's the Patriot or the AD, neither can reliably intercept them. This makes command centers, communication centers, air defense positions, and airports within the missile's range become priority targets. The Russian side has clearly named the Aegis ashore bases in Poland and Romania as potential priority strike targets, and all of these are within the territory of NATO countries. However, Russia believes that since NATO weapons can directly strike targets inside Russia, Russian weapons can also directly strike targets inside NATO countries for the Ukraine battlefield. Medium-range missiles are also of great use, especially for highly fortified targets with strict air defense protection. The uni-interceptable nature of medium-range missiles ensures reliable strikes. For some time now, NATO has continuously escalated its military aid to Ukraine despite Russia's repeated warnings. and the war has long ceased to be confined within Ukraine's borders. The sudden incursion of the Ukrainian military into Kursk was a direct invasion of Russia. Well, this can be seen as reciprocal exchanges, but reciprocal exchanges are surely to weigh, especially when Russia has the ability to expand the battlefield. In his video address on June 28, Putin also mentioned the Asian allies of the United States, which mainly refers to Japan and South Korea. Japan and South Korea are very close to Russia's Far East. The range of the Iskander is only 500 kilometers. But the Hazel can cover the entire Japanese archipelago and South Korea without any difficulty, and once the Hazel is deployed on the Kamchatka Peninsula, it will be a whole new dimension. Launched from Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, the entire territory of Alaska, especially the mid-course anti-missile base in Fort Greely, will be within its range. And Hawaii will also be within range, if its range reaches 6,000 kilometers. Seattle and San Francisco will also be within range. However, deployment in Europe is the key point. In the Ukraine war, the U.S. Army Tactical Missile System ATACMS tactical ballistic missiles and the British Storm Shadow cruise missiles have long been used to strike targets inside Russia. Now the United States and the United Kingdom have publicly removed the usage restrictions and are allowing the Ukrainian military to launch attacks with the theater strike weapons provided by NATO without restraint. It must be said that, whether in terms of quantity or power, these missiles can only cause minor harm to Russia and are unable to sway the situation on the battlefield. However, such gradual escalation is really annoying, considering the precarious situation of the Ukrainian military on the battlefield. It is very likely that NATO troops will participate in the war in an organized manner next, which will greatly expand the scale of the war. Russia is not afraid of a large-scale war, but still hopes to avoid it. Raising the level of deterrence is meant for precisely this purpose. Another dangerous direction is Finland. Since Finland and Sweden joined NATO, they have been very active, frequently holding large-scale military exercises along the Finnish-Russian border. Even during the Cold War era, this was a secure direction for the Soviet Union. But now things are different, and it has become an unbearable burden. Putin has hit back forcefully and revised the nuclear policy. If non-nuclear countries launch attacks on Russia with the support of nuclear-armed countries, Russia will regard it as a joint attack and has the right to use nuclear counterattacks. The Hazel attack on Dnipro clearly demonstrated Russia's determination to use nuclear weapons. Don't take Russia's stance on nuclear escalation as an empty threat anymore. Before the Hazel missile, Russia only had the option of launching the Kh-47M to Kinzhau by the MiG-31, but the firepower density was too low. Here, having an option was just a bit better than having no option at all. Things will be different after a large number of medium-range missiles are deployed. Russia will be able to do more than just talk in the context of NATO's eastward expansion and Russia's step-by-step retreat. Regaining medium-range missiles has enabled Russia to once again possess the means to strike the whole of Europe, which has substantially changed the balance of military power in Europe. There is no doubt that the Hazel has the capability to carry nuclear warheads. However, if it is dual purpose for nuclear and conventional use, it will greatly lower the threshold for use and improve tactical flexibility. Putin's decision to redevelop and redeploy medium-range missiles may cause a ripple effect, and it will be much more effective than his threat to use nuclear weapons.